San Francisco housing. San Francisco is the heart of the Bay Area. We get millions of tourists every year, people from all over the world who feel like a part of their life belongs here. It's a place full of beauty, its landscapes, its culture, everything blending to create something special. It's a city of fresh starts, of new opportunities, a place where people come to build their future. Everyone deserves to be somewhere that feels like home, but what happens when you need to be here to live here, but you're barely getting by? When rent keeps going up and the cost of living makes it impossible to stay. No one should have to fight just to exist in a place they call home. Yet, for so many people in San Francisco, that's the reality. The city's cost of living is one of the highest in the country, with housing prices that push out long-term residents, students, and working-class families. The dream of living here is slipping away, not because people don't belong, but because they can't afford to stay. The housing crisis in San Francisco is shaped by investors like Presidio Bay Ventures, landlords like Veritas Investments, and the University of California's Police Department, UCPD. Meanwhile, marginalized groups including UCSF students and the San Francisco Tenant Union, SFTU, are fighting for affordable housing and fair treatment.
In this program, you have to have an income, and they take like 30% of whatever you make. And I was really concerned about how am I going to support myself so I don't get kicked out of this program.
UCSF students are living paycheck to paycheck, trapped by rising rents and limited protections. Affordable housing options are scarce, and the financial strain is taking its toll. For these students, rent control is the only safeguard against losing their homes. But even with it, the struggle to stay is real. Limited housing options and rising rents keep the pressure high, leaving them fighting to stay focused on their studies and sometimes just to get through the day. The police department, UCPD, has become a powerful force in contributing to the housing policies across UC campuses, often prioritizing university expansion over affordable housing initiatives for students. As a result, low-income and marginalized students face increased vulnerability to displacement. Across UC campuses, this struggle is far from isolated. UCSC students, just like those at UCSF, are participating in wildcat strikes, demanding changes to a broken housing system. There is no longer just a campus issue, it's a growing movement pushing back against policies that favor the wealthy while leaving marginalized students behind. UCPD's housing policies may vary across each UC campus, but they all share a common goal: enforcing rules that protect the university's interests, often at the expense of marginalized students. These policies, which focus on trespassing, security measures, and managing events, disproportionately impact low-income students, those who rely on informal housing arrangements or struggle to pay for on-campus housing. Wealthier students have the luxury of stable housing, but these enforcement practices contribute to gentrification, pushing out students who can't afford private or university-controlled housing. It's a cycle that keeps low-income students from finding a place to live, making it harder for them to focus on their studies and succeed. In San Francisco and beyond, real estate investors are profiting by acquiring land in wildfire-prone areas. These zones where urban development meets natural landscapes put low-income families in harm's way. Forced by affordability constraints, they have no choice but to live in these highly susceptible to destruction by wildfires. The land here might seem far from the safety of city centers, but for low-income renters, it's their only option. Investors take advantage of this, acquiring properties in vulnerable regions and contributing to the growing housing instability for those who can't afford safer alternatives. The issue goes beyond housing affordability. It's about survival in areas where environmental risks are ever present, and the threat of wildfires is a constant worry. Investors see opportunities in these areas, but for families living here, it's a harsh reality. As development pushes into these zones, more vulnerable communities are forced to remain in place, unable to escape both the financial pressures and the dangers of the natural disasters. Investors buy land in wildfire-affected areas, exploiting low-income families who have no choice but to live there. Verdes investment takes advantage of rising inflation and the lack of government protections to increase rents and evict tenants, hitting low-income people the hardest and worsening the housing crisis in San Francisco. Verdes investment's action disproportionately affect low-income renters, making housing even less accessible. With little in the way of the government protections, tenants are left to struggle in an increasingly expensive and unstable housing market. Verdes investment plays a big role in San Francisco's housing crisis. By taking advantage of inflation and the lack of tenant protections, they push low-income renters into financial insecurity. The profit-driven choices drive the systematic issues behind housing instability, making it harder for vulnerable groups to stay housed. The crisis isn't about rising rents, it's about how tenants exploit, keeping the cycle of displacement and insecurity going for those already struggling. Presidio Bay Ventures invests in high-income developments that reduce affordable housing availability. Presidio Bay Ventures continues to focus on high-end luxury developments in San Francisco, squeezing out affordable housing options. As they build more and more upscale properties, the space is available for low-income tenants, leaving many with fewer choices and higher rents. Their investments prioritize the wealthy and, in the process, displace those who are already struggling to find a stable home. These decisions have a lasting impact on the city's landscape and the communities who call it home. K. Cyrus Nanji is the investor of Presidio Bay Ventures, exploiting wildfire-affected land by purchasing it at a lower price and redeveloping it into residential or commercial spaces, prioritizing profit over the safety and stability of low-income communities who are forced to live in these high-risk areas. Action disproportionately affect low-income renters, making housing even less accessible. With little in the way of the government protections, tenants are left to struggle in an increasingly expensive and unstable housing market.
We are here today to say that the homes of thousands of San Franciscans are more than just commodities to be bought, operated, and sold for maximum profit.
On the steps of City Hall, supervisors lowered blow after
The San
blow
Francisco
on
Tenant Union, SFTU, is working to combat displacement, gentrification, and housing instability. Their advocacy is critical in raising awareness and ensuring that tenants know their rights in an environment where landlords and investors often have the upper hand. Through protest, organizing, and pushing for stronger tenant protections, SFTU is standing up for those who are most vulnerable in this housing crisis. Without their work, many low-income renters would have little to no support in their fight for affordable and stable housing. San Francisco has been a symbol of opportunities and hope where people come to build their futures, but that dream is slipping away for many. As the city becomes unaffordable and more people are pushed out, the fight for housing is not just about policy, it's about people's, families, and communities who are fighting to uphold onto their homes. But it's not too late. We have the power to change this. Through advocacy, awareness, and collective action, we can push for policies that put people first. The struggle continues, but so does the fight for a home in San Francisco. San Francisco was built on dreams, on the idea that anyone could find a home here. But that dream is fading. Investors, landlords, and institutions are putting profit over people, pushing out the very communities that make the city vibrant. But this isn't just a matter of policy or numbers, it's about real people fighting to stay in the place where they call home. The affordable housing crisis isn't something unavoidable. It is a decision that is being made by leaders, and since it is a decision, it can be altered. The people in San Francisco, student attendants, and activists are refusing to give up, and so should we.